Let me just start my timer so I know if I'm ahead of the schedule. We have a lunch break afterwards, so I don't want to be too long. Hi, my name is Łukasz. I will tell you today about the Panda experiment and how the evolution of DevOps culture, how we did it at HolidayCheck. First, quick word about me. This is a photo of my desk while I was DevOps engineer supporting a few teams. Now I'm team lead engineering, and I also have a position called Big Panda, which I will explain you a bit later. About HolidayCheck, what this actually is. So we are a travel company. We are a travel company helping Urlaubers to find their ideal beach vacation. Urlauber is our keyword for vacation maker that wants to have a vacation when he lays down on the beach and rests. And we are a German company. We have some visitors per month, and we are, let's say, mid-sized, and we have around 100 people in IT in 3 offices, Poznań, Munich, and Botikhofen in Switzerland. I decided to add this slide because 2 weeks ago I had a conversation with an interview with a candidate for a developer, and he asked us, hey, nice, this is your HolidayCheck website, but you have some load balancing or stuff? I said, yeah, we have some. We have traffic, on top of that Nginx and stuff. So people in non-German speaking countries don't know about this company. Tech-wise, we have 13 development teams developing this service. Our infrastructure spans across some cloud providers. We even have one on-site Xen farm, which we are not proud of, and we are trying to migrate away from it. Yesterday I checked, and I was surprised myself that we have 545 virtual machines and 2 Kubernetes clusters that are running 1,200 pods. And this is both production and staging. A bit of history. 5 years ago, there was still a system that was working in many companies. Excuse me my drawing, I did my best. So we had developers and a silo of operations, which is actually a fortress. And ops people were sitting, having the servers under a guard, and there was a small service desk window where people could submit their requests and hope that they will be done in this sprint, next sprint, whenever. Around 4.5 years ago, management decided that, well, they noticed that this is not really working well. So, hey, let's do DevOps. It's a new buzzword. Let's start with putting one ops person in each development team. And basically, yesterday we had a conversation during the open space that this is a very nice because you can do ops tasks right away with a person inside the team. And obviously, this is also a suggested ideal first step in many articles when you want to do DevOps culture adoption. HolidayCheck was lacking some people, of course, because we did not have that much of operations people. That's why I was hired as DevOps engineer. And for a long time, I tried to prove my company that my position is useless. And luckily, I wasn't fired. So the plan was good. But we had a human factor, and we got some different approaches in each team. For sure, there were teams where this was doing fine. It was perfect. So basically, when you put the ops person in a room full of developers, then you lock the door and pray they will start talking to each other. And it worked. In many teams, it worked. But we had also observed that we have moved the silo from outside, from company-wide, to the inside of the team. So on every planning, we had a separate swim line for operations guy to do his tasks. So there were development tasks, and DevOps in the sprint should prepare this server, that server, do the pipeline. If we had a not experienced DevOps engineer inside the experienced senior team, it was like, hey, server boy, come type your sudo password here. What are you doing? Nothing, nothing, nothing. We are only altering production. On the other hand, when we are more senior and more tough DevOps engineer, it was like, don't you touch my toys, you do the code, I do the servers. We are in the same team, but don't you approach me too often. Also, then we grew in size. And this introduced more problems. We had, by default, we have co-located teams in this office. So we had some developers in the same office with a local DevOps. And of course, the distribution of developers and distribution of DevOps people was not the same. And we had, again, different angles. In some teams, DevOps people started to code because the team did not have that much of requirements towards the infrastructure. They only needed MongoDB and some pipeline and Jenkins, that's all. So DevOps was bored, he started to code. In other teams, they were lacking DevOps resources, especially that we hired more people. So one DevOps was trying to support 2 to 3 teams. Some teams were not lucky, and they did not get a DevOps resource. So they were falling back to the previous setup, to do ticket ops, so the ticket to the fortress and hope to get it done. On top of that, as we have been co-located, each DevOps was focusing on his own team, so we had really very little knowledge transfer, and we very often came with duplicate solutions to the same problems. Also, there were problems with handovers. So imagine that you are covering, let's say, 3 teams, and you want to go for a vacation. So try to find someone who takes over those 3 teams from you. Let's assume that this person is having yet another 3 teams and will kindly agree to do it for you. So he will cover 6 teams for 2 weeks. So you really need a crate of beer for him. But then, as we don't have much knowledge transfer, each of us did like personal hacks in the teams. So the handover of the teams took 3 to 4 days before vacation to actually make it work later. For me personally, it was like I was supporting 3 teams, 2 in Poznań, exceptionally 1 in Munich, and I was also taking part in the project called Dust. It was a platform team where I was a developer, and I was developing a customized Kubernetes cluster for our microservices. Time for a commercial break. You can Google my name or search it on YouTube, and there will be a presentation from the previous conference where I told what we did with Kubernetes. So I tried to somehow cope with the situation. I was overwhelmed. I literally could not go to any meeting, to every meeting, so I needed to figure it out. Hopefully I did it. With one team, it was enough to attend dailies. With the other, I had a friend there, and I simply had a coffee with him every day, and he updated me what his team is up to. And the third team, we agreed that they are not that needing for the infrastructure, so they will just ping me whenever they need something. That was it. So, and I started thinking, what if what I did could be re-implemented to every other team, every other office? So what if we could detach DevOps from dev teams and form a floating group of infrastructure consultants? And I took it to my ops team lead, Nikolai, who challenged me with some nice situations where it could fail. And together we have worked out a model, a draft for a new working model between developers and operations. The concept was, again, my beautiful drawing. We take out ops people, form a separate group, but each of us in this group has a contact team. So has a nice bond to the team that he was working with before, and therefore he knows what the team is working on, what they're up to, what is their roadmap. We also work with the fortress, with the core system engineering. We have main infrastructure in Google Cloud, so the system engineering, where's the laser? System engineering works on the firewall rules, the core infrastructure, whereas we help to develop it and help developers to adapt the code to fit the new infrastructure. Also, some assumptions. 1 second. So, each of us should have no more than 2 to 3 contact teams. We don't care how you keep up with what team is doing. You can go for a coffee, you can eavesdrop, you can plant a listening device on their computers. We don't care. You have to be aware of what the team is working on. Also, the team, as you're the contact person, the team can approach you anytime and ask for anything. So you're basically their guy in operations. No more backlogs. If there's some quick task like please reboot server, you can do it right away. You just log in, open computer, do it. Thank you, bye-bye. Any bigger task like, hey, we need a new Elasticsearch structure, it's a big task. And we agreed that we will have a shared backlog in the group, and the big tasks will end up in there. What's more, we will work on each other's tasks. So when we are working on the shared backlog, we take not only our tasks, but the tasks from other teams. And like it was not enough, we want to encourage developers to work on infrastructure as well. So we want to pair with them, coach them, show them stuff. Yeah, sounds unimaginable. But let's assume it works. And then my team asked me, okay, so let's assume it works. Let's assume that we have it. So how would you like to explain this concept to the people without making the presentation every second day? And I said, well, I will write a manual. So after 4 pages of writing documentation of do's and don'ts, I stopped. Then I had a second approach. I tried to write examples or case per case examples of behavior, explaining how they should behave, what they should do. But in the end, the perfect solution was to write a list of 5 simple tenets. Tenets are principles to follow. There should be a tiebreakers, they should help you solve a problem, make the decision, but they are not strict about how to do it. So we have 5 main points of how our working group should behave. First, we celebrate knowledge sharing, both inside the team and with developers. So we want to have a knowledge about every team we are working with, not only our contact ones, but all the others. And also we want to share the ops knowledge with developers and get the insight into their code. That's essential. 2, everybody is equal. As now we are a group of people, teams can approach us. Even though there are teams that are have more urgent needs, we need to treat everybody equal so we do not starve to death the other ones. Because we do have teams that approach us every second day and say, hey, we need it and we need it now. We are always open to problems discussions. We want to find the best possible solution. So we do not expect to have a ticket from the team. Hey, we need a MongoDB cluster with 4 nodes, 100 gigs in the data disk, and maybe something else. They can approach us with a problem. Hey, we would like to store our cache somewhere. Can you help us? It's okay. We also want to get to the bottom of the problem with the teams. So sometimes what team wants, it's not entirely what they need. And we need to challenge them, and we do it. I have my personal example. The developer from Poznań approached me that, hey, Łukasz, we would need an Elasticsearch cluster. I said, okay, what kind of a cluster? Oh, this size, okay. But you know, we need some tuning on it. What's tuning? Could you rename the indices, drop some indexing, basically, and he started explaining, and in the end I told you, okay, David, but basically what you need is a MongoDB. Well, yeah. So why do you ask for Elasticsearch cluster? You know the other application, simply it is using Elasticsearch, and when I clone it, I can change 3 lines and I have a new one. So we have such a situation. Hello, David. Okay, we don't limit ourselves to fixing tech issues. We also want to encourage people to work on infrastructure. We originate from operations. We are not core developers, and we really would like to benefit from the developer approach to the problem, especially that we in the company we are following the immutable infrastructure model. So with these tenets, it was much easier for me to explain to the people how to do it. So having the model, having the tenets, we need to name it somehow. And I really wanted to name this project Panda. The Panda is because of my personal situation. When my son was born, I had many sleepless nights, and I came to the office with black eyes and shades, walking like a zombie, and people started calling me Panda Ops instead of DevOps. And I really wanted to name it Panda. So my team lead told me, okay, we can name it Panda only if you find a reasonable development of this acronym. It took me 4 days, but I did it. You cannot see it. It's performing a natural DevOps adaptation. That said, he had to accept it. I also tried to make higher management to change my position on the contract, but Germans are not that flexible. Imagine that you're on the interview and, hey, what you did in the HolidayCheck? I was a panda. You were what? And then you have half an hour to explain. Okay, we have the name, we have everything ready. How do we introduce it? Of course, management is resilient to change, so we need to prove them that it's actually working. So we decided to go for an experiment. We have defined metrics. We wanted to measure the experiment to see if it's okay or not. So metrics were soft and hard. Soft were happiness of the people, of the pandas, workload distribution, because we wanted to achieve a situation when we work on each other's tasks, and the resolution time. The resolution time should not be much longer than before. And I'm happy that I never defined it, because it was fluctuating. But now we are pretty good. The metrics also were hard. So if we get a severe complaints from the development team that's something is stopping us from delivering some business value, we need to cut this. Okay, we had the metrics, we picked a few teams. Of course, all mine from Poznań, because they were like used to this way of working already, and some from Switzerland, from Bochtighofen, and we defined the time span for 3 months. And it started. The beginnings were hard, mostly because the quarter we agreed on was the quarter that started with Easter break. So first week of the experiment, after first week, CTO approaches me and says, hey, Łukasz, how's the experiment? I'm fine, I'm the only one here. Everybody's on vacation. Then they came back from vacation, so I said, okay, now we're going full speed. Now, I did not foresee that people that were moved to the Panda project, they had some tasks, long-running tasks, some small projects from the previous setup. And obviously, I could not tell them, hey, stop what you're doing, do this stuff, because we did not want to have severe complaints. So again, a week in the back. But then we started. We started slowly, we improved over time, and after 2 months, I decided to send out a survey to all the experiment participants and got the results. The results were pretty nice. So first, we did not get any negative feedback, so no showstoppers. Then 82% of participants responded to prefer a new setup over the old one, whether it was DevOps, ticket ops, whatever. There was a full mix. And many of the other 18% commented that, well, they don't see any big difference. And even some teams approached us asking, hey, there is a Panda experiment going on. I see it's nice. Can we join? So that said, we decided to cut the experiment and do the full rollout. So we included all the teams in Poznań, in Munich, in Bochtighofen. We had more pandas coming. So now each panda has 2 teams, 2 contact teams, and we even had a new role called Pool Panda. Pool Panda is the panda that sits on the pool and drinks beer. But also, it's a panda that works on the shared backlog, but he doesn't have a contact team. So it's a nice for people that are great with technology, not that great with communicating with people. And we started. We did some improvements over time, and in the end, I started to be like introducing a role model. Then I needed to be some kind of a coach, a coaching leader, but I'm still also a contact person to my 2 teams. Quick peek at what we do on our everyday basis. So first to mention, I did not want to enforce any solution. So we started with developing bottom-up approach of how we want to work. We ended up to having to using a company Jira because every team has it, and we can simply link the tasks to each other. Second, we decided to go with a Kanban board, with a Kanban approach, where we have selected in progress, waiting line, and we really started working on each other's tasks. So I see myself here on 4 of them, and only this one is really my contact team, because it was an emergency. So we are working on it. As you can see, the workload is pretty big. We also have a backlog, and we have daily. We have stand-ups. Stand-ups are twice a week because we did not see the need to have it more often. And during a stand-up, we do something that we call post-refinement. So every team, every developer, everyone can put any task to the Panda backlog. It can be even a placeholder. But we agree that we pull this to selected only if we open it during a stand-up, we read the description, and there is no veto that something is not understandable to anyone. It should be able to be picked at by any one of us and done immediately without asking, hey, what this is about. This was mostly caused by the situation in which one team asked us to upgrade MongoDB that was belonging to other team, and it was already put into selected because someone was in a hurry. And we did it. Fortunately, we did not break anything because it was a minor upgrade, but people were really stressed. So now we need to have a close look on what we are really working on. There are also tasks that are immediately closed in the backlog, like, hey, can you include tracing in our application? And well, you already have it. Okay, thanks. Quick resolution. Also, what we are working on now, mostly, my slides are okay. Most popular tasks in the shared backlog are now something like, hey, we need to set up a new cluster, we need to upgrade other cluster, please set up monitoring for our infrastructure. We use Kubernetes, we monitor everything with Prometheus. We also are in the process of getting rid of our beloved Xen farm that is in the very basement in the safe in Switzerland and moving it to the cloud. So we are moving build servers and trying to optimize the flow along the way. So this is basically most popular tasks. Most popular quick wins is that we used Jenkins, and very often we need to reboot it or clean the data disk, because we also use some of our teams decided to use Nix, and then they forgot to tell us about it. And every second week we need to check if Nix is not going crazy. We're also helping to set proper CI/CD pipelines for the new teams. For the others, we have already developed a solution that we scan the whole organization with one of the Jenkins plugins, and it basically, we have a templates for the applications like Node.js, like Scala, and we automatically hook up the pipeline. Also, there's questions that never end from the very first day from my work. Hey, how do I find service X? Hey, I need to check Grafana logs. What is Grafana? So we started writing documentation, but then instead of pointing people, hey, Grafana is in this link, you put, hey, Grafana link can be found here. So there was no point in creating the documentation. So this is a never-ending story. Improvement projects. As I said, we want to also improve, not only work on the backlog and do stuff. Right now, there are two things I mentioned in this presentation. So first, we are working on something like automatic cluster recreation. So we have immutable infrastructure. Every time there is some security upgrade, a new version of image is being created, but it's not being deployed, obviously. So we want to set up a tool that will use Jenkins, looking for the new image, and automatically doing a rolling recreate of the cluster, and notifying on Slack that, hey, I started, hey, I finished, just in case something breaks. Right now, we need to do it like in manual way. We have scripts, but there's always someone that has to sit down, click, and watch, and drink coffee, and do it over and over again. We want to automate it to be done even in the middle of the night. Some clusters are already done this way, so we are not bothered. Second thing is we are moving the build servers from the Xen farm where we have virtual machines, and each team is having their own build server. And the build server is very often a huge machine with like 32 gigs of RAM, 8 cores, and some more resources, and it has a Jenkins that is building like 100 jobs, needed or not needed. And if we move it to Google Cloud as it is, it will burn money, especially after working hours, because we are all in the same time zone, and after 6 p.m. it could be as well shut down. So we are evaluating alternatives. Right now we are evaluating a tool, open source tool called Drone.io, which is very nice, and I wanted to share it. So the fun thing about this is that Drone.io lets you put both pipeline, like pipeline in Jenkins definition, and build environment definition stored with the code. What I hate about Jenkins is now that I move Jenkins to the cloud, but I do not scrape it and move it. I want to rebuild it, and I need to compare plugin list, install here, try to do it, reinstall, and when you move the code base from one team to another, when the ownership changes, you also are supposed to move the Jenkins job. Here is no need. Build steps, build environment, it's stored within the code, and Drone.io lets you have a pool of generic workers that will execute your pipeline. So there's no need to actually move it to other Jenkins. You simply use the same cluster. If you have some special needs, you can have a separate cluster here, and you will just retarget the builds to the other cluster, nothing more. Yeah, and some reflections after 6 months. What we experienced was a huge knowledge sharing boost. Right now, we can go on a vacation, like on a day after day, telling our teams, hey, I'm on vacation from next week for 4 weeks. If you have any need, please ask on our Slack channel, on Panda Slack channel. For sure, someone will help you. Once a month, we do like a checkup where we have a recurring survey. We have listed a team, and the question is, please check how confident you would be if you had to take over team X, like tomorrow. And if someone checks, like many people check, like I'm terrified, I have no idea what it's all about, then we know that we need to organize some knowledge sharing and equalize the knowledge level. With the shared backlog, we really work on tasks from every team. And we are happy to see that also teams that had a dedicated full-time DevOps for them did not lose on the velocity. Because very often the DevOps that was working on only their task was also the bottleneck. When they needed like a Redis cluster upgrade and the new Kafka setup, he could do only one at once. Right now, if we had some more business important teams, we can also do it like one Panda is doing the Redis, one is doing Kafka. So we are also early adopters of new tools and technologies. Whenever team does that is developing the microservice infrastructure, they come up with some new tooling, like new dashboards, new tools to deploy. Canary releases, for example, right now, we are the ones that are trained, and we take this knowledge to our teams. Also, we have some downsides. So the mindset needs to be constantly reminded. I notice that people very often tend to fall back to their previous way of working. It's much easier to work on the task-related basis. You get the task, you do the task. You get the task, you do the task. And sometimes they forget that, hey, it's not really logical. Let's take it to the team. Let's discuss with them. Let's meet with them. Let's go to their refinement. Let's check what they're up to. This sometimes needs to be reminded. We also still lack in the area of pairing and working with developers. So when we started, we really invited developers to, hey, I'm doing a cluster for you. All the configuration is stored in GitHub. Come on, have a look. Next time, we'll do another pairing. You will do it, I will watch. And the third time, hopefully, you will approach me with a pull request. Faster for you, faster for me. And not enough Kaizen. So we have some improvement projects, as I showed you, but these are mostly a big moves. We are lacking still some small improvements, like if we are being asked for upgrade or new cluster with MongoDB, why don't we set up some quick tooling to do this for us, so we don't have to do it over and over again. And the future. So right now we are in the middle of moving some pieces of infrastructure to the cloud. We need to put more focus on critical parts of infrastructure. We have a service that cannot be that easily cached, because people on this website can see the reviews of the hotel that are constantly added, and they want to check the prices for the package holidays that needed to be presented real time. So we need to monitor it a bit, get more knowledge and confidence about this part. And after the cloud move is done and we have the core parts, the critical parts ready, the vision is that we will focus more on developing more self-service tools, so developer can easily do the upgrade himself. So he doesn't have to know how to prepare a pull request. He can just see. We have an internal tool called hcloud. It's an overlay on gcloud that simplifies some commands, and we want to make use of it to for example, tell hcloud check a version of Elasticsearch on cluster X, and you will get like, okay, this is, I know, 2.1. Please upgrade it to 5.0, for example. And the tool should create a pull request that will be reviewed by us. And the second thing we want to focus on is go more towards, let's say, similar to Google SRE model, where we want to focus on application reliability, dive even more into the code, and also get more experience from the developer side. And we need more pandas to it. So we need to hire more pandas, either externally or internally. I would really, really love to have some pandas that originate from development for a change. And that's it. Time for questions and for lunch. You will be early.
Quick questions. Thanks, Łukasz, for the presentation. I have a question about knowledge sharing. You've mentioned that your team of IT is about 100 people.
Yes.
How do you share knowledge with them? Because I assume you want to tell them about Kubernetes or any other tool which is widely used within the company. Yeah.
So, from the perspective of a Panda team, each of us, so we have 13 development teams, and every development team has some contact person in our Panda team. So when we get the knowledge about new tool or approach, we share it, like we prepare a template for presentation and we share it with each team independently. Each of us just takes it to the team. The other way is that people in our company tend to like knowledge sharing. So we have many community of practices, tech talks, and even company-wide talks. So we do it every time. We have something like Spotify guilds, where we gather around something that is interesting for us. For some time we had Haskell learning group, but unfortunately it didn't get to production.
Anyone else?
How to start the change, how to speak to the management, because I'm not the team leader and I want to ignite some changes in my company, and how to talk with them, just make some presentation or just speak, talk with people in the kitchen.
First, when I introduced that change, I was like, let's say, a regular engineer, even not a senior one. The first thing is to have an idea, to sell it, then just discuss it with people around you with your supervisor. If he is really, he's not against you, then you can get his support to take it higher. But sometimes, for example, we have many lightning talks, tech talks, and some of our colleagues just presented it organization-wide as a tech talk. Hey, I have an idea to improve this, this, and this. And he did a presentation and present it and get traction right away. I'm rather a person that I don't like public speaking, so I prefer to do it in the backstage. So get support from this person, that person, get the feedback, get the knowledge, and work it out. Any other questions? Everybody's hungry. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.